Hey, it's Jeff W. Welsh. Welcome to the Hardcore Happiness Podcast, where we talk about the art and science of how to create your best life. Expect to discuss mindset and purpose, the positive and the profound, and anything else that contributes to the healthiest, happiest, most successful life you can imagine. This is your sanctuary against fear-mongering and propaganda, the place to focus on a life of well-being and satisfaction and transform your world. I'm Jeff W. Welsh, and this is Hardcore Happiness. Before we jump into today's topic, I just wanted to make a quick note that I've had some requests to publish the Hardcore Happiness podcast on Fridays as opposed to Thursdays, the way we started, as a way to start the weekend with gratitude, thoughtfulness, and optimism. I am happy to oblige. The latest episode of the Hardcore Happiness podcast will now show up on Fridays in the Americas, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So today we're talking about what to do when you finally get your freedom. When we meet somebody, it's common to ask, so what do you do? Or maybe tell me about yourself. We rarely define ourselves, though, in terms of who we are as a human being. We don't say things like, well, I'm intelligent and compassionate, and I'm really interested in helping people elevate their mindset so they have a more fulfilling existence on the planet. Or, I try to be an exceptional mother and I value human sovereignty. Instead, we say things like, I'm a psychologist, or I'm a barista, or I'm a pilot. Why is this important? These responses define us in terms of how we choose to earn our incomes. They point to the fact that our self-image is largely described in terms of what we do, not who we are. And we do the things we do in order to get something that we don't currently have. I mean, this is the entire basis for the study of economics, but that's a completely different story. When you finally get to the question of what it is that you're working for, people have a lot to say about it. It's an important question. We spend the majority of our waking lives trying to get something or become something different. The carrot we're chasing is enough money to reach escape velocity. That is an income that will support us in our quest to do whatever it is that we feel like doing. I mean, think about it. If you could do anything you wanted, anything, what would you continue to do that you currently do? Another way that people look at this is, how would your life change if you won the lottery? How would people know you won the lottery? I'm guessing it would be a conspicuous change in your day-to-day activities. There are those people who will tell you they're not motivated by money, but there's a good chance they have jobs or they're living off of an inheritance, or perhaps they're very young or delusional, or young and delusional, and haven't really given it much thought. It's about more than just survival, food, and shelter. Money becomes a major part of our identity. Money is a token, not just to exchange for goods and services, but also as a representation of our worth. Let's say you make $100,000 a year and you meet somebody who's barely making minimum wage. How do you feel in comparison? And we always compare. How do you feel when you meet someone who makes $100,000 a month? People will do just about anything to get more money. They rob and steal and even kill. They'll engage in acts that cause immeasurable harm to other human beings. They will degrade themselves and trash their reputations and self-esteem on the internet to get ahead. On the surface, people will tell you they want a great house and a Lambo and a Rolex and another horse or another guitar or another jet or vacation home and a vacation in Cabo or Bali, or you get the idea. But these things are status symbols, and in the Western world, we assign a lot of value to status. Truly, though, the big prize is what lies beyond the bling and the flex. What we really want, if we could just afford it, is freedom. And that leads to another question, another layer even deeper. If and when you have enough focus and drive and luck to finally gain your freedom, when you finally reach escape velocity, What is it that you will actually do? That conversation generally goes something like this. What is it you really want? More money. Well, why do you want more money? So I can quit this job that I hate. Okay, let's say you had enough money to quit the job that you hate, then what would you do? Typically, people will say, whatever I want. I want to be able to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it. Okay, but if you actually quit your job, what would you really do? Well, I want to be able to just sit on the beach or travel whenever and wherever I want. The conversation comes to an abrupt halt in many cases when we finally get to this question. Okay, after you've sat on the beach, after you've traveled wherever you want to go, what about the rest of your life? If you finally had complete freedom, what would you actually do with it? There's a couple of reasons that this last question is so problematic. For generations, we've been taught that the path through life follows a prescribed pattern. Go to school, get a job, get married, have kids, save your money, and someday retire. And the conversation ends there, as though nothing follows the end of your primary career. I personally think this is a huge, huge problem with our current way of thinking and our current modus of education. I mean, there are other paths. You may have gained your freedom sooner by inheritance or luck or great planning or all three. But regardless of how you achieve it, when you finally escape the indentured servitude of the 40-hour work week, you still arrive at the base question, what now? The first issue is that we were simply never trained to think about it. From a young age, we're taught that we should do well in school and get a good career, be careful with our money, save. But again, no one really ever discussed what to do afterwards. And then there's people that don't take any of that advice seriously, and they may end up living month to month in a job they don't really like. Their dream frequently is to win the lottery, quote unquote. But we know in the extremely unlikely event that someone does win the lottery, it ruins their life and they can frequently end up broke in a short period of time. The last couple of generations, though, have been smart enough to see that there is no longer a middle class, that owning a home almost anywhere is not a realistic goal. They can't even afford to rent a house. If they're lucky and they have a good job, they might be able to rent a room with 5 other people in the same house that somebody bought when that dream was still attainable. So, for a variety of reasons, people never realistically consider what to do if and when they finally gain their freedom. They also don't give much thought to what happens if they can suddenly levitate or unicorns can fly out of their... You get the picture. It doesn't seem attainable. Education and support can help with this first issue, although it'll take time. People can learn to realistically consider their options and that it is still possible to achieve financial escape velocity. It's the second issue that's more problematic. You see this play out among the nouveau rich, children of celebrities, young people who acquire too much material wealth too quickly. The destruction that follows that is almost a cliche at this point. This second problem isn't merely a lack of planning and knowledge, it's a lack of vision of what the future could be. See, to work towards a brighter future, you first have to believe there could be a brighter future. Cynicism and a near total collapse of trust has left many thinking that it may never get better. As always, the best solutions begin with the right question. The common but tragically wrong question is, if I had all the money in the world, what would I buy? The right question, the question you should ask yourself, requires more effort and thought. If I had real freedom, what would I be? Every serious discussion about sustainable happiness and well-being inevitably comes around to purpose. This most foundational of existential considerations is infinitely practical because it informs the way you really live every day of your life. In a universe where your existence is seemingly meaningless, you can assign any meaning you can imagine. To put that more simply, you have the freedom to choose what you want to be. So, what should you choose? This, of course, is the big question, the biggest of them all, as we've discussed previously and will surely discuss again at length. Your purpose is nothing less than the reason you are here. You have the freedom to choose any purpose you desire, but that freedom comes with considerable obligation and responsibility. The meaning you choose for your life will determine your actions and, to a great extent, your course through life. Purpose is a major factor in your resilience, your happiness, your well-being, and to a great extent, the well-being and happiness of those around you. But this discussion today isn't really about how to choose a purpose. We'll get into that in the future in great detail. Today's discussion is about what happens once you've chosen your purpose. Imagine that you've done the difficult but necessary work of envisioning a purpose for your life. You've written it down and planned it out, and now you're ready to get to work. The danger here, the thing that trips some people up, is that you may mistake your purpose for a goal. A goal has a set, measurable endpoint, like getting your 10,000 steps in today or finishing your degree. A purpose, your meaning for being alive, is an ongoing project that guides the way you think and behave, and it may include many goals along the way. You can and should apply good management skills to the pursuit of your purpose, but there really isn't a final milestone. There is no final act in this play. In fact, if there is a definable conclusion to the purpose you've chosen, if you find that you're done with that purpose, it's incumbent upon you to choose another purpose and continue on. Here's an example. A goal might be get my children enrolled in the best school in the neighborhood. Once you've done that, that goal's finished. An associated purpose would look something like this. Create a supportive but challenging family environment so that my children develop self-reliance and resilience as they launch into adulthood. That's something that's ongoing, something that you need to work at all the time. There's no finish to that. Those of you with younger kids might think that you're kind of done being a parent when they're 18. Au contraire, that goes as long as you're alive, if you're lucky. Here's another one. Your goal might be, I want to finish my master's degree in psychology. The purpose for that might be to gain the knowledge, skills, and experience necessary to be able to help people on their own journey towards self-fulfillment and happiness. There's a huge difference between goals and purpose. And if you mistake purpose for goals, you'll end up jumping from thing to thing. If you're clear on what your purpose really is, it's something that will sustain you and will continue for a serious period of time. Purpose is something to be lived, not achieved. One of the hallmarks of a well-chosen purpose is that it guides the way you behave. This change from goal to purpose establishes a completely new mindset. When you commit to your stated purpose, you reference it in your daily life actions. Let's say you decide to take a vacation in Maui this year. This is clearly a goal and not a life purpose. It's a short-term project with a specific end date and event that effectively ends the project, namely that you made it to Maui. This kind of short-term goal is laudable and desirable. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? But be careful because it can backfire. In your quest to get enough money fast enough to make it to Hawaii, you may end up working many more hours than you usually do. You might take on a second or even third job. This kind of thing can do massive damage to your health, your emotional stability, and your relationships. In your quest to achieve the goal in the timeline that you've set for yourself, you may even allow yourself to engage in activities that you wouldn't otherwise normally undertake. And those activities may undermine your self-respect and your self-esteem, but yeah, you might make it to Maui this year. In contrast, imagine that your purpose is to be a great parent. You will consider your thoughts and behaviors every day in that light. You'll find it necessary to take care of your physical health so that you actively partake in your children's lives. You'll have to work to find a balance between earning an income and being available as a parent so that your children grow with a sense of safety and stability, so that they learn to trust. This isn't a moral or value judgment, it's just basic human psychology. You're more likely to stick with a long-term course of thought and action, like a purpose, if it makes you feel good about yourself and others. In this case, again, we come back to the fact that your emotions are a compass that keeps you moving in the direction you choose. You're free to choose any purpose you want, of course. I couldn't possibly imagine what your purpose might be. But to stick with it, it has to be something that feels satisfying, something that your intuition tells you is the right thing to do. Here's my honest advice from a lifetime of wrestling with these kinds of concepts. When you define your meaning, the thing you stand for, how you will behave, your purpose, envision the absolute highest good that you can imagine. There's a couple of reasons for this. When you choose a purpose for yourself that you deem to be noble and worthy, each day that you spend in pursuit of that purpose will reward you with a sense of satisfaction and well-being. This is because your purpose will encompass all of your other actions. Everything you do will be in alignment with the purpose you define once you commit to it. The second reason to choose the highest, best purpose you can imagine is because of the resilience you will gain. In any kind of long-term plan, things are going to go wrong. These might be minor issues of frustration. Maybe a delivery gets delayed, or one of your children gets in trouble at school, or you fall behind on a deadline. It could also be a major setback, the loss of your job, maybe even the loss of a loved one. Serious health issues you might have to deal with. When you're faced with that kind of challenge and sacrifice, it is massively helpful to know that the life meaning you have chosen encompasses more than just your immediate personal comfort. When your purpose is bigger than yourself, it'll help you get through the tough stuff. Here's another way to think about it. You're more likely to endure hardship if you're trying to make the world a better place than if you're saving up to buy a new TV, hopefully. Here's the main point of this discussion. When you live in alignment with the meaning, the purpose that you have chosen for your life, you realize that purpose is process. It's the way you live and behave every day. It's your vision. It's the way you hold fast to what you believe and the way you inspire other people. It's your integrity. It's the way that you do what you say you will do, that you don't lie to impress or escape, that you don't knowingly promise things you can't deliver, that you are the person you claim to be even when no one is looking. It's your consistency, your reliability. You show up as promised. People can depend on you to be there when you say you're going to be there. It's your grit. It's what keeps you going even when it's rough. And it's your flexibility. Purpose doesn't mean rigid dogma. You can pivot when a better way or a new truth enhances your mission, your overall purpose. Purpose is like a great hike in the hills. The joy and satisfaction come along the way, not just at the end of the trial. What's important is not that you complete the purpose you've chosen for yourself, but rather that you are engaged in its pursuit every day as a part of your authentic lifestyle. And then you will have a clear picture of what to do when you finally get your freedom. The Hardcore Happiness Podcast is live every Friday in video form on YouTube and in audio form wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can visit the podcast page at jeffwwelsh.studio, where you can see past episodes and listen to the latest one. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Check out the links page at jeffwwelsh.com to contact me or if you're interested in having me speak to your organization. You can subscribe to my work on the Hardcore Happiness blog page and the Jeff W. Welsh Substack or Medium accounts, and follow my accounts on Instagram and X. To support this community, you can donate through my Patreon account. Thanks for watching. I'm Dr. Jeff W. Welsh.